And here at the top right-hand corner of Entombed Valley, we have our red Protoss player from StarTale, up 2-1 in the set, but losing the last game. It is Squirtle. And his opponent in the lower left-hand corner, being forced to play on Entombed Valley. We'll see if he has an answer for this. It's our blue Zerg player, Slayer's CoCa.
That's right. So the problem that Zergs run into is kind of like what we mentioned before the game starts on this map, where your third base is really far away from your main in that you have to go down on the low ground, come around, come back up the ramp. There's rocks that block you from getting across there on the high ground. So a lot of Zerg players, you know, when those two base pushes from Protoss come, are like, well, what do I do? Do I build spine crawlers in my third, but then they just come at my natural, or vice versa? So it's really, really tough. I mean, you want to break those rocks down early, but to do it, you know, really quickly, you need to make more units than you would want to. So all in all, that's a big part of why this map is quote-unquote Protoss favored. Big reason why Squirtle chose it. Like you mentioned as well, you can also take 3 bases fairly easily as Protoss on this map too. Go to a very strong late game, you know, 200-200 maxed out army as well. So Squirtle, you know, like we said, has a lot of options on this map, but CoCa, you know, you can't count them out just yet. Zergs can win on Entombed Valley. We've seen it, you know, a decent amount of times too. So again, I think it's going to come down a lot to how CoCa responds to what he sees his opponent doing.
And that is going to be the question here. Looks like Squirtle going to open for Nexus first, and then we'll see what he ends up moving into afterwards. So can take a relatively safe Nexus first on this map. I mean, it is a very long walk distance. And we'll see what CoCa ends up doing here. Some players, more often than not, have just been sending their drone straight over to the third on this map, and would not be surprised to see CoCa do just that, and indeed he is.
You know, after last game, I'm really wondering about the possibility of just making your third base at that base with the rich Vespin gas kind of standard. I mean, it seems a little bit risky still, you know, but the way that he was able to hold that off, just the way that units rally in that particular situation, I mean, with Squirtle doing basically about the most aggressive thing you can do in that situation once you scouted it, that certainly made it look like a legitimate option for Zergs to just take their third at that base. So I'm curious to see if more Zergs are going to start doing that in the future. I kind of want to like play on that map now and mess around with it myself. I'm got the gears in my brain turning, man.
It's interesting to note, though, that Squirtle has not been that interested in blocking his opponent's bases at all during this set. His teammate Ace, as we've seen in our own team league, Team Arena Challenge, loves to do that. He'll walk in, he'll try to deny bases as long as possible, sometimes throw gateways on top of those just to accumulate extra time on there. So he ends up going for a very, very aggressive blocking strategy. Squirtle's not done it at all, though.
No, not really. Some Protoss players, Squirtle included, that probe being very sneaky. But you know what? Your life bar is showing.
Hey, privacy.
That's right. So, and most players play with life bar showing these days anyway. So if CoCa by some miracle does happen to send a Zergling up through there, he's going to see it right away. But the probe is already making his way down to scout, as we can see on the mini-map right now. And but just kind of going back to what we were talking about, yeah, Squirtle isn't really too worried about letting his opponents take his bases. He just makes sure that they take their third at the, or their natural, or let me start over. They take their second hatchery at their third base location. He just wants that to happen. I mean, it's fairly safe. Zerg players feel fairly comfortable doing that. But on a map like this, that may be the difference between, you know, saving your third and not, you know, saving your third. The fact that it's going to be a little bit more separated. Now, there is a Stargate coming out for Squirtle, so this is kind of a direct thing that relates to him forcing the second base at the third base location. He's going to try to take advantage of the fact that the creep just isn't going to be connecting. It's going to be tough for CoCa to have, you know, a lot of air defense there if Squirtle hides these units from the Stargate well enough.
And I want to point, it looks like Squirtle decided to go for a full wall here, as we can see by the probe not making its way in. That confirms it for me. Thank you, probe. And he's starting to break down the destructible rocks, but he's choosing to get to a relatively quick third, it seems, on the back of Stargate technology rather than Robo, which is kind of interesting for me. First Void Ray is popping out at the moment. Looks like this... is the Overlord going to get far enough to see?
Yeah,
he definitely does check out that Stargate.
That's unfortunate for Squirtle, actually. And you can tell he was trying to, you know, prevent that with the Stalker. Basically, if he would have been able to get a Void Ray and a couple Phoenixes out without CoCa knowing it, you know, without CoCa having the time to put down that Evo Chamber and the Spore Crawlers, he could have probably done a lot of damage at the third base. But now that it's been scouted, you know, we've got the Evo Chamber on the way. It's standard, but I think CoCa was going to wait a little bit longer anyway. he's going to have no problem at all defending that. We're going to see Spores go down right away, and there's also a good amount of gas going down too. So CoCa, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he responded to this with Spire Tech. Once in a while you see Hydras, but it seems like a Spire's the way to go if it is just one Stargate these days.
All right, well, he's starting to work on the destructible rocks as well. He'll certainly need that maneuverability here in just a bit, but he's already started his creep shed pretty efficiently, so he should be able to connect those bases very, very soon and ensure that the walking lines are pretty defendable. Let's see, do we have any other Stargate units coming down? No, actually, all he did was make one Void Ray, and that was it. No Phoenixes or anything like that. He's just going to use it to keep his opponent pinned in for a while. Do we have Robotech on the way? 2 more gateways are up, but no, just 3-gate Stargate for now.
Yeah, +1 on the way as well for Squirtles. And, he's taking that third base, too, so this isn't going to be any sort of really aggressive, like 2-base +1 Zealot Void Ray timing or anything like that. Getting his Phoenixes instead, just kind of continuing to use these to harass. And so, the question is, how will CoCa respond? It looks like he's going for Roaches here. He's kind of biding his time, though. I think he's kind of thinking, all right, what do I really want to use my gas on? I've got 6 gas right now. Do I need to do something like put down a Hydra Den if my opponent is really committing to Stargate? I think he's really closely watching the amount of Stargate units that he sees out on the map right now to help him make that decision. And yeah, still no higher tier tech just yet, so he's trying to make that choice right now. And what is it going to be? My guess is Spire, but I could be wrong. We'll see.
Well, Lair Tech is just finishing. There it is. And that was a macro hatch. It looks like he put down a building at exactly the right time there. But we're waiting on any future developments. There is Roach Speed, and there's an Infestation Pit coming up.
All right, Infestation Pit and Aspire, so he's going to be going for Broodlords, it looks like, later in the game, going for probably a 4th if he can manage it, and then trying to just stay alive until he has that strong late-game army out. And those Roaches with +1 missiles are going to do a really good job of helping him do that. It is going to be +2 and Blink, though, from Squirtle, so that's going to be something that Squirtle can choose to use, very aggressively, too, if he wants to. And that Phoenix getting very, very low. 15 hit points yet, just a couple shots from death.
Yeah, and it looks like Queens are starting to chase away this Void Ray that was sitting on the edge of creep as well. Squirtle going to have to save that here. Taking quite a bit of damage. Going up to a very quick Fleet Beacon, a sub-11-minute Fleet Beacon off of 3 bases. I'm looking for a Templar Archives. No, Twilight Council is down, though, but maybe we're going to see carriers, but he could just be rushing for Mothership as well.
Hydra Den as well from CoCa, too, on the other side of things. Wonder how much he's actually going to use that.
That's a lot of tech out of both our players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's got the room to do it, and there's Hive started immediately. So a lot of Zerg players lately, and I've actually seen CoCa do this in the GSTL recently, is Zerg players are starting to mix in some Hydralisks in that late game army, just because it does add some extra anti-air, some extra DPS as well. So if your opponent isn't going for Colossi, Hydras can be pretty good, but they're still kind of vulnerable to Psionic Storms, so they're not like terribly widely used just yet. You can see he's making 1 right now. You just get out a couple for base defense, and then later on you can mix them in with their army. But kind of an interesting thing to note, that Hydra Den being mixed in a little bit more often in ZVP lately.
And it is indeed a Mothership coming up, so it'll be a very fast Mothership. Hive Tech is just about to finish up as well, so really these guys just kind of looked at each other and said, okay, we know that this map lends itself to long games. We're just going to go ahead and go to top tier tech and just slug it out and see what happens.
No rush 15. That's it. Just a Phoenix flying around your base.
Yep. Already 13 spine crawlers being put up, though, for CoCa. Just the 12.5 minute mark. That's pretty remarkable.
Well, if you remember what we saw from Anyang Prime, it's the same type of thing. The Phoenix finally does go down. But basically, if you go up to that really high tier tech, you have a good spine crawler defense as well. You can kind of just be like, come at me, bro. And the Protoss can't really do a lot about it. He can try to attack into it, but Infestors plus spine crawlers plus Broodlords plus Corruptors makes an almost unstoppable force. But CoCa getting aggressive here. Ooh, that's a bold decision by CoCa. Not a lot to kind of defend those Infestors, so
No, not at all.
I'm kind of glad he turned around for his sake. That could have gotten really messy. He's actually a little bit lucky that he didn't lose some units to force fields there.
Yeah, and at 13 minutes and 45 seconds, we are at 9 bases in this game. So both players playing very, very greedy economically. Now the Mothership is up as well, but I have to say it's fairly undefended. I mean, there's a few Stalkers out, but they're going to have to DPS down the Corruptors very quickly. It looks like he's just going to go for the base. The Nexus is actually taking quite a bit of damage, going to be out of its shields here, but now everything is cloaked, including the Nexus as well. A lot of those forces have gone down. Mothership taking some pretty good damage, but it's actually moving back quick enough so the Stalkers can actually deal with the Corruptors. This is pretty incredible control out of Squirtle because he actually zones out all of the infested Terrans, keeping all of his units alive at the exact same time. That was ridiculous by Squirtle.
That was absolutely beautiful by Squirtle. It's trading energy for energy, pushing back the infested Terrans with his force field so that they couldn't kill the Nexus. Really good clutch move out of Startail Squirtle, keeping that Mothership alive as well. Oh, and we've got more. Yeah, we're going carriers, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's carrier time.
All right. Well, Squirtle sitting on 4 bases decides, all right, well, I guess we're going to move to carriers now. Carrier, Mothership, lots of upgrades. He's already got 2 cybernetic scores down because he's researching 1-1 for his air units at the moment. He'll need to chrono boost this Nexus a couple of times, though, just to recover its shields a little bit faster.
We've seen this before, though. We've seen Protoss players say, hey, man, I'm really, really far ahead. I don't need to worry about anything. I'm going carriers. And we've seen Zerg say, well, you know what? I'm actually just going to continue making Corruptors, getting air upgrades, and then I'll just kill, pretty much everything you have and just kind of sit behind a wall of spine crawlers. So, the question is, will Squirtle be able to win with carriers? This will be like, if he does, this will be the first game I've seen a Protoss win with carriers in a very long time. There it is. 4 carriers out on the map, out on the map soon anyway, from Startail Squirtle, but will they work?
Insane.
Will they work?
I love this, though. Super high economy, 87 probes, and just going to power out as many of those carriers as he can. So very cool stuff out of him at just the 16.5-minute mark. He's out on carriers.
I like this. I like this Roach counterattack coming in from CoCa, hitting maybe in a bit of an unexpected time for Squirtle, and here he comes. He's going to go through this wall so fast if he commits to this, and he kind of has to. Those Roaches are never going to be able to escape.
No, and pretty nice job by Squirtle once again to kind of trap those in, and he is losing a few Stalkers here, but it's not going to end up being the worst deal in the world for him.
Really.
Oh, pretty good control there with the force fields as well, and it looks like all the Roaches are going to get shot down without having done too much economic damage.
Here's the big question. How many Stargates did he see with those Roaches?
Oh, good question. Let me take a look.
I wonder.
Let's steal the Broodlord there.
None. Whoops.
Oh.
Okay, so that Roach.
But wait, he got far enough. Wait a second, he did get far enough.
Oh,
Don't forget,
the
Stargates do actually show you what unit is being constructed inside.
Oh, he's immediately making a ton of Corruptors as well, so I'm pretty sure that he did indeed notice the shape coming out of that Stargate. It is obviously something that you want to pay attention to. He's also got a lot of upgrades on the way for his flyers as well. Squirtle a little bit ahead in that department, but carriers, the thing that that a lot of people don't realize is that they actually do their damage fairly slowly. So when it comes down to it, a group of Corruptors with upgrades that are equivalent to the carriers will oftentimes win that fight. Just because there's no AoE from carriers, they're hitting with a bunch of little targets, and as long as the carriers are focused by the Corruptors, things generally go pretty well for the Zerg player. Void Rays actually do work a little bit better in terms of out-and-out fights, Nice little snipe here at this base.
Yeah, that one taking quite a bit of damage. Broodlords are starting to come in now, though. He has to start focusing down the hatchery. It looks like he's actually going to take out a couple of Corruptors. No, now finally starting to focus down the hatchery. Those Stalkers are pinned in position. The hatchery is going to fall. Will he blink out of there? Yes, he will. Oh, hitting with feedbacks around the side as well. Man. Very well done.
Man, he just absolutely annihilated nearly all of the infestors out on the field for CoCa. And that's going to make CoCa maybe play a little bit safer. He's moving up because just of the sheer amount of Broodlords that he has right now, but it's a little bit dangerous if Squirtle gets a good amount of Stalkers out. He could blink underneath, do some damage. It looks like he's going to try to rely on carriers. So the question is, does CoCa have enough Corruptors to handle this?
We'll find out. That's 12 Corruptors up and a fair number of Broodlords off to the side as well, so we can see doing some damage to the forces on the ground. Carriers are rolling in, though. Looks like the Mothership going to go down first. It does get off a Vortex, though. We'll see if the carriers are able to kill things long enough before those Corruptors come up. Oh,
whoops. And
carrier toilet.
The Broodlords did need to make a run for it once the carriers were going unopposed because of no Corruptors, but now they're going to be all back out. Storm on everything, including the carriers, but the Corruptors move just too fast. But yeah, the numbers are too high right now for Squirtle.
Yeah, the Corruptors did take the brunt of that. It looks like one carrier is going to go down. The other ones have taken some damage, but none of the other ones have fallen yet. And the rest of the Corruptors go down. That means these Broodlords are just dead weight.
Yeah, and I think that may be all it takes here for CoCa to tap out. We'll have to see. He's still on a large amount of bases, but losing your army like this is really, really tough. Now, the good news for CoCa is that, Squirtle may decide not to attack, so I think we are going to see him stay in the game for a bit longer here. The carriers obviously do take a long time to get across the map, and he did just lose his Mothership as well, so that will buy CoCa a little bit of time. He does also have a lot of bases, too, but it's going to be tough from here on out. I mean, that's a huge amount of resources to be sunk into Broodlords that did basically nothing. I mean, if you look right now, he has almost no gas.
Yeah, I mean, as we see, this base stayed up pretty well. There's only been 9 workers killed in this game. That is absurd to me. Yeah, we have one player maxed on carriers. We have another one who has a ton of air units in Tier 3 tech. And there's been 9 workers killed in this game.
Yeah, that's just a very defensive game from both players, and neither player really wanting to harass a whole lot as well. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see if the amount of bases that CoCa takes will kind of allow him to just kind of outmass his opponent. We'll see. I mean, he's going to need to wait until he has a lot more Corruptors before he engages this.
And that
may be the amount he needs. What are the upgrades, though?
23. Oh my God! Storm stacking on top of all of the Corruptors. They have taken so much damage. They do manage to pick off 1 or 2 of the carriers, though. Yeah. Starting to regenerate some of those interceptors up, and the Corruptors have to fly away. That was a pretty staggering amount of damage done by Storms.
Oh man, no kidding. I mean, the Corruptors were really, really stacked for CoCa too. He needs to do a little bit better job splitting those. A little bit of a Zergling run by into the main, and he is going to go right after those Stargates, or not. Yes, he is.
Yeah,
I think that's probably going to be the best decision, to try to focus down one of those or 2. That'll really slow down the carrier production. Just 1 Zealot meant to clean up all of that.
Saw a blip of red running through there, but it was just a probe sitting around. As we can see now, though, these Zerglings are starting to come under attack by these photon cannons. They only go in piecemeal like that. He's not going to kill all that many. So.
Yep. Here are the Corruptors, and a Vortex getting a lot of those. Yeah, and CoCa making the right decision, jumping all those into the Vortex, except for a few that were kind of on the outside of that battle there. I mean, it is a little bit safer to do just that. And what is that Mothership doing? Does that have a death wish?
I think he's trying to bait a little bit out so we can get a better engagement with the carriers. So he actually storms underneath, though, and the Corruptors actually go down very quickly. Now, how many carriers are left? Still just 9, and the Mothership did end up falling. But, oh, wow, CoCa's actually getting GG. We just saw carriers work.